kuma yadi ayentu mi tiasi eka oda semi ni ya we radi o kainu oni papa no ninya we radi weni kuni o iti ye free ye madi enyina yeshe weni onyamda
David
salty and quiet cross. Oh, na bafo drum anyway, na wo yi tetre wo yi se kron 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 ya sakwera di na wo yi tetre wo yi se kron 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 ya sakwera di the boy cross. Oh, na bafo drum anyway, na wo yi tetre wo yi se kron 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 ya sakwera di na wo yi tetre wo yi se kron 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 ya sakwera di ye wa kura na tisa wo wa kura na tisa wo wa kura na tisa wo mahidi ye be yiwa yo ebe ma wo soda Yesu waya me audition enti bostom no da oh no na owi jeje me kwa oh gwa ma oh ku no oh no na owi jeje me kwa oh gwa ma oh ku no Yesu waya me audition enti bostom no da me say oh no na owi jeje me kwa oh gwa ma oh ku no oh no na owi jeje me kwa oh gwa ma oh ku no Oh, we, mommy, what's up, me, abode? Me say, oh no, na oh we, jeje me kwa, oh gwa ma oh ku no, oh no, na oh we, jeje me kwa, oh gwa ma oh ku no. Oh, we, mommy, wasabi, everywhere you know. Oh, no, na oh, we, jeje me kwa, oh, gwa ma oh, ku no. They say, oh, no, na oh, we, jeje me kwa, oh, gwa ma Eradimo, wata waya mami. Oyi kasimo, wawuda wudi dami. be anymore. You shall make you sua, in your boafobia. Sukwana shall me pray mu. Grana me mu, Kiri Baba. Yes, Mama Ninya, and Ibrani approach Sam. Amaya me was in ya medio. Jimmy Tata, Chire woman, Emma Shinty, a female woman. Jimmy Tata, Chire woman, Emma Shinty, a female woman.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all? I am also fine by the grace of God. Bringing you greetings from Cape Coast. How would you feel when you do a less strenuous activity and you break a bone? How would you feel when you turn yourself in the middle of the night and you break a bone? Imagine you yourself, excuse me for pointing my hand at you, not able to jump on your feet or walk on your feet. How would you feel? Not able to use the normal educational system because of your disability. How sad it is not to get good medical care for your own condition. This is my life. My name is Efia Ayeyi Yadombwa. My name is Efia Ayeyi Yadombwachi, also known as Infragilis Ayeyi. 12 years ago, I was born and diagnosed with osteogenesis imperfecta. We can all just say it as brittle bones. Can we all say it together? Brittle bones. Now, what is brittle bones? Brittle bones is a rare genetic condition which happens to 1 out of 15,000 people. It forms the bones and it makes it so soft that it breaks easily. Living with this condition has not been rosy at all. I have broken over 100 bones, and as I speak to all of you, I have 3 fractures with me that I'm managing. Each day, I fight for acceptance. I fight for education. I fight for better walkways and many more. Do you know why? Because I believe I have the right to live a normal life. Can I all tell you a story? One day we went to an office and there was no stairs, there was no lift, and there was no ramp, and there was only stairs. And that person was on the 5th floor. So I had to be carried all the way to the 5th floor. After meeting that person, we had to go back to that same stairs again. And by the time I entered the car, I was exhausted. Limited accessibility is one of my major challenges. Though I have challenges personally and socially, I try to bring up a positive mindset. A mindset which helps me to be bold and assertive. A mindset which is telling me that you can do this. Although I have said sorry, to be bold and assertive.
Indeed, not all superheroes wear capes. Some come in the form of little hearts fighting big battles, and that's the story of Ayeyi Yadombwache. She's now an advocate not only for herself, but all other children, especially those in rural Ghana, fighting the battle of osteogenesis imperfecta every day. Let's give it up for her once again. Ayayi, congratulations.
Thank you.
I now invite Gary Al Smith to join me here. On behalf of UNICEF Ghana, the Ghana Federation of Persons Living with disability organizations, as well as the National Council on Persons with Disability, I warmly welcome you to today's program.
Thank you, Portia. And please give it up for Ayayi again. You know, a part of me is grateful about what just happened because it illustrates perfectly the imperfections in all of us. I'm sure if I asked Ayayi how many times she had rehearsed what she was going to say, you know what I mean. But this is the reality of life. You rehearse things, you plan, and nature gives you other ideas. But as they say, what do?
You make lemonade out of it.
And if life gives you beans and rice, you make wachi out of it as well. You understand? So that is why we are here, to illustrate the real, practical, and everyday conditions of the wonderful people we call the persons with abilities. And today, by the kind courtesy of all our wonderful partners, we are gathered here to bring you, especially our virtual audience and all the wonderful dignitaries gathered here, stories of everyday people, stories of people who deserve better, and stories of people like you, like me, like all of us. I'm Gary Al Smith. I'm with the Multimedia Group, and she's
Portia Gabor with Media General. Well, today we are going to help achieve equity for children living with disabilities. Equality says I'm giving everybody a shoe, but equity says I'm giving everyone a shoe that fits him or her, a shoe that is exactly your size. And that's what we are here to do, to ensure that no child is left behind.
Posh, can you take that one again? Because it's an important definition that we should have throughout today. Okay. To break it down. So, equity says?
Equity is about giving everybody a shoe.
Okay.
And equality is giving everyone a shoe that fits his or her size.
Nice one. That's something that I'll take home. Please, everybody has a notepad. I see people writing already. That is what equality and equity means in this context, Posh.
At this juncture, I would like to invite Madame Yuleta, what she is Chief Advocacy and Communication of UNICEF, to give us the official welcome address. Let's give her a round of applause.
And while she comes and gets her note ready, would love to acknowledge the people here and those who have made this possible. In no particular order, the Department for Children, the NHIA, the National Council on Persons with Disabilities, all represented here, the Ministry of Finance, the African Health Innovation, the University of Ghana, the Principal Program Officer of Inclusive Education, Clicks Africa Foundation, we see you, Special Education Directorate of the Ghana Education Service, the Pre-Tertiary Education Directorate of the GES, the Ghana Health Service, the GNECC, that's the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, the Ghana Education Service as a whole, Inclusion Ghana, Curious Minds, the Ministry of Education.
I wanted to take some time to applaud what a wonderful list that you just read out there, Gary. Thank you so much. And Gary and Portia, thank you for that as well. Honestly, we are honored that everybody here is in this room. Let me start from the beginning. I'd like to stand on all protocols observed. I'd also firstly like to thank Ayayi for opening this morning's presentation. Ayayi, you are bold, you are determined, and you're a fighter. And that came across extremely well in your presentation, and you should be very, very proud. Thank you so much for coming all the way from Cape Coast to deliver that really important message for us. I'm sure it's something that we will take with us as we continue to move forward in this meeting, these 2 hours. I'd also like to thank the amazing and incredibly talented young people we have at the back here. Could we please give them a round of applause? It's the Ekapong School for the Blind band. They did absolutely brilliantly. What a lovely way to welcome us into this morning's session. It's really been so enchanting and wonderful and inspiring to be here already, and we haven't even started our discussions. Distinguished guests, we also thank the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection for its commitment to the rights and well-being of all children in Ghana, and we continue as UNICEF to stand with you in those efforts, and UNICEF is happy also to partner with the National Council for Persons with Disability and the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations this morning. We also thank the University of Ghana Centre for Social Policy Studies for collaborating with UNICEF to produce 2 reports which shed more light on the situation for children with disabilities on today. And we also thank all of our panelists who you're going to hear from later, who are generously and bravely sharing their stories and their experiences, and we look forward to hearing those too. And friends, we're delighted, as Gary's already pointed out, so many sectors of society have joined us today to be part of this meeting, to become more equipped, to become more informed with data and evidence, and ready, I hope, to contribute to meaningful and positive, sustainable impact for young boys and girls with disabilities. We hope that you'll all feel free to share your experiences and personal journeys for this to be a fruitful and productive. They leave school, what kind of employment opportunities await them? Friends, I believe that you would all agree with me that today's children will be tomorrow's leaders and the drivers of Ghana's future prosperity. By upholding the rights of every child and investing in children now, we will ensure a brighter future, not just for the child, but for the country as a whole. Investing in a child's health, nutrition, education, protection, and development is not only a sound economic investment to foster necessary human capital, but it's the right thing to do. Surviving and developing to his or her full potential is a basic right of every child. As such, UNICEF continues to support the government of Ghana as it pursues an equitable agenda for children with disabilities. Ghana has made significant achievements in this regard. In particular, it was encouraging that His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, co-chaired the Global Disability Summit last year, from which 5 overarching commitments to achieve equity for children with disabilities were established. In recent years, UNICEF has supported the government and other key stakeholders in this area. In collaboration, for example, with the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service, UNICEF has provided support on the development and implementation of the inclusive education policy, and with thanks to the Ghana National Association of the Deaf, Ghana Education Service and Peace Corps, UNICEF supported the development and implementation of the harmonized Ghanaian Sign Language Dictionary. Each year, UNICEF works with the Ghana Education Service and Ghana Health Service to support health and disability
boosting those with disability can reach their fullest potential. For every child, there's a chance. Is the chief advocacy and founders organizations thank you. We'd love to acknowledge your presence, especially with our virtual audiences. Shall we give them a wave? Those watching us from across the world. The cameras. Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to this morning's session on behalf of the leadership of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, which is a national umbrella of organizations of persons with disabilities in Ghana. I acknowledge the partnership with UNICEF and National Council on Persons with Disabilities in organizing this session and in promoting disability rights in Ghana. Working with you as partners, we have chalked some successes over the years. We've worked together with you to get our government to adopt the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Obviously, we got our Disability Act in place and we are working for its review. We've worked together to get an inclusive education policy that promotes inclusion and access by all persons with disabilities, especially children. Ladies and gentlemen, we have read, seen, and experienced the key challenges children with disabilities face in education. The reality is that it is possible to achieve equity in education for children with disabilities. I don't want to go over the challenges because we have heard a lot of it. Ladies and gentlemen, it requires full and meaningful investment in education for us to achieve the equity we want. As we join the session today, the Federation joins our partners, UNICEF and the National Council, to draw your attention to reflect on the key issues I am about to highlight. The first one is what will be the cost of achieving inclusion and equity for children with disabilities in education. How much resources are being committed now and what is required to reach our goal? We know government is committing some resources, other stakeholders are contributing. But how do we get there? How much is needed? And lastly, what will be the gains or returns on our investments in education for children with disabilities if we want to achieve equity? Ladies and gentlemen, these are critical issues that we need to look into as we hear the presentations, as we contribute to the conversations. It is important for us to highlight that we cannot achieve equity if we don't contribute in our different ways. Also, it is important to highlight that our government has a key responsibility of ensuring equity for all. And we need to measure the resources allocated to inclusive education now so we can together contribute or advocate for better inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with these questions for reflection. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Well, you get to know a nation's worth by the way it treats its most vulnerable members of society. And today we are just here to get a report on how we are faring as a country. At this juncture, I'd like to humbly invite Dr. Kwejo Opoku from the Center of Social Policy Studies to present a report finding and recommendations by UNICEF Ghana and the University of Ghana.
Hello. Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you for coming for this program. So this morning, we started the program with our study that we conducted. This was conducted by Prof. Charles Aka and Dr. Kojo Opoko, and I'm presenting here for him. And it's UNICEF funded the project, and it's access to essential services and funding for children with disabilities in Ghana. So we looked at how people with disabilities, there are barriers that are there that do not allow them to access essential services in Ghana, like education, health insurance, and others, as we go through the presentation. So we start with some highlights or statistics about disability. So when we talk about issues of disabilities, it's possible that you have an entire household, there's no disability, and a workplace, there's no disability. So when we say how important it is to consider it, sometimes because it's far away from you, you are not able to appreciate how important it is. And therefore, statistics is very important. And so in this room, even apart from people that have been specially invited because they have one problem or another, but people that were invited based on their position and others, we could see that there is some kind of disadvantage in it, and it's not unequal, because many of us will not have that problem. Meanwhile, if you look at the data, it said, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, the population and housing census, just 2021, about 8% of the entire population of Ghanaians have some form of disability. This means that if you pick any 100 people, 8 of them has a form of disability. And I'm sure apart from those that were invited, if you pick the 100 people over here that were invited by their position, by their activity, I'm sure less than 2 of them will have any kind of disability. So that shows us how we have excluded them from many of our activities. And we are saying that specifically for children, if you from 5 to 17 years, we have about 3% of them live with some kind of functional disabilities, in that they cannot function well normally, activities that other children are able to perform. It could be play, it could be learning, any activity they cannot perform. They have these functional disabilities. And when you have it like that, it is not just a normal life, they'll go through life like that. It has its own difficulties. And a lot of studies here in Ghana and in Africa and other parts of the world have shown that for children with disabilities, normal access and use of essential services are severely limited, in that something that anybody can use, they are not able to use. So if you don't make conscious effort, it means that we exclude them, and it will serve as a barrier. Their functional disability or their disability will serve as a barrier for them to access something that all of us need, and that becomes a disadvantage to them. Please, next slide. Next slide. So it is not only for the children that have this disability that suffer, but the families also face enormous challenges. In fact, even when they are seeking health care for their wards, because one, they are prone to health conditions, and it also an additional cost to them. So if you compare a household, a child with no disability and a child with disability will need more health to seek more health care. And in Africa, studies have indicated that why 9 to 80% of non-CWD, that is children without disabilities, over 5 years old, who are over 5 years old, had never attended school. With regards to people with disability, children with disabilities, that rate is about 24% to 40%. So it is possible if you take the population of children without disability, 100 people, 40 of them are not going to school. And that is very problematic for our development, because all this chunk of people have been left behind. And how would they contribute to development? And so the impact of restricting access to persons with disabilities in achieving their full potential lead to some direct and indirect cost for the nation. So in terms of productivity, they will not be able to contribute to the country's development. And this is a disadvantage to the country if we decide to prevent them from achieving their full potential. Please, next slide. And even within households, for example, in South Africa, in terms of earning, it is a disadvantage to the family because on average, those households with children with disabilities earn less than 30% when you compare them with households with no disability, because sometimes they have to take time out to take care of them. Even this one, we have considered the education level of the mother. So it's possible that the mother has been educated just like you. He can get into the market, the labor market to work. But because the child has a problem, he has to take some time off in order to take care of the child. And so when you do all the analysis, it says that 30% less, they earn less than 30% when you compare it with other households with no disabilities. And that shows that it is not only the child, it is the family, it is the people that take care of them. And ILO also estimated barriers to schooling and employment leads to losses in productivity of between 1 and 7% of GDP due to lost labor market productivity. So, as I said, if we are not able to provide these essential services, education, health outcome, all this human development, if you are not able to do it, you live in your house and you think it is that household problem. But they actually reduce our effort in increasing our productivity and our GDP growth. And that has been estimated at between 1 to 7% of GDP. So if you take the entire GDP of Ghana, about 800 billion, it means that when you don't allow these children to participate and have these essential services that can increase their productivity, you are likely to lose about 60 billion, that amount. You are likely to lose it as percentage of your GDP, 60 billion. And that is not good for the country. And in Ghana, there have been studies that have examined what are the extra costs that are associated with disabilities and its implications. And the studies have revealed that annual household cost of upkeep increased by 26%. So if you have a household that has a disabled child, its annual cost that you take to take care of them, it increased by 26%. And in that house also, the probability that they will have poverty is 40.4% compared with household without with no disability. Next slide, please. It's the same slide. So, in terms of seeking health care, families with children with disabilities usually resort to saying that, oh, this is not serious. You seek to use a self-medication method to cure the child, and when it doesn't solve, the mother will resort to going to the hospital, and this actually compounds the problem for children with disabilities. And as you have said, it has negative direct and indirect costs for all the PWDs and CWDs as well. And thus, there's a need to devote much attention to the access and use for potential for essential services of CWDs. And this called for this study that we want to show you our findings. Next slide. Please. So this the data that we use for our study. So UNICEF nationwide has collected a data that we call it Ghana Statistical Service collected this data, and it's called Ghana Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey, and it asks various questions, and in fact test how they test people's performance in education, in numeracy, and in English, and many of these things. So we use this data to conduct this study, and we also use Ghana Living Standard Survey round 7, which was collected in 2016-2017. So we use both of these data to complement each other to get the results that we need. Next slide. So this, we first look at disability and education outcomes, and we looked at the access, how the children with disabilities. Is it the case that if you have a disabled child who have less access to school, to be in school, to ever been in school, and also their performance when even they have gone to school? So those who are able to break the barrier of going to school, having disability, does it have effect on their performance? And these were the results, highlight of some of the results that we got from our study. We found that children with disabilities are less likely to be ever enrolled in school. So when you compare disabled children with non-disabled children, we find control for everything, any money, everything, the household, whatever it is. When you control for it, we find that once you have a disability, there's less likelihood for you to be ever been enrolled in school. And also that the probability that a child with disability will be enrolled is 1.2% less than a child with no disability. And this is a problem that we need to find a way to bring those children out so that we'll be able to be enrolled them in school. Then we find that for school-going age children, those who are going to schools, children with disabilities are 2.9% less likely to be in school compared to non-CWDs. So those who are currently able to go to school, if you put those with disability and those without any disabilities, those with disability are 2.9% less likely to be to be in school. That is those who are in school. Then our third finding is that for those who have been in school in grade at the right age, that is, even when you are in school, what is the right age for the right grade? So you can have a 10-year-old who is KG, and that is not the right grade for the child. And we are saying that even for those who have broken the barrier to be in school, what is the effect of being a disabled child? And you find out that being a disabled child, you have 3.1% less likely to be at the right grade when you compare with a non-disabled child. And so for those that have been, there's a need for us to get some ways to improve their learning, because otherwise they will continue, those who have been in school, they will continue to be lag behind. And this shows that the CWDs suffer disproportionately. They suffer in learning outcomes or performance. We also were able to study those who are in school. What is their performance? Because the data the data measured their performance in numeracy and English language reading. And so we are able to do that, and you find out that they are also disadvantaged. Children with disabilities are also disadvantaged in their performance. When you consider their class, their age, and everything, they are disadvantaged in learning performance. Please, next slide. Then we try to divide the disability into cognitive and physical disability. And here the summary of the results is that all the children with disabilities suffer in various their performance and access to essential services. But children with cognitive disabilities suffer disproportionately. Please, next slide. Then we look at disability and health outcomes. So we look at two outcomes. Those access to health insurance. So as you said from the beginning, if you're a child with disability, the frequency at which you will need health care is very high compared to a child with no disability. But here we find out that even for children with disability, when you compare them with non-disabled children, they are less likely to have valid health insurance, because you know that they will be going to hospital very often. So they should be the first people to be fully enrolled. But we find out that even for access to valid health insurance, they are also disadvantaged. And this is very bad for the society, and for the fact that disabled children, our attitude to the children with disabilities are very bad, because they measured it, how we discriminate against them, how we shout at them. UNICEF, the data measured all this, and therefore we could see how, compared to children without disabilities, we don't have time for them, no sympathy, and we actually do not, no favor, but also the way we treat them is bad. And therefore, our attitude, society and family attitude towards children with disabilities is also not good, compared with children with no disability. And for disability and child protection, we compare to non-disabled, non-children with disabilities. Children with functional disabilities are 3.2% more likely to suffer from physical abuse, and 1.1% more likely to experience non-physical abuse. So this is what I've already explained. Please, next slide. So we are saying that, in conclusion, society and families do not accept disabled children, as our findings indicate that children with disabilities are more likely to be victims of both physical and non-physical abuse. Then we also find that cognitively disabled children are the most neglected in all aspects of access to essential services, including education, learning, and health insurance, as well as they also suffer most from child abuse. Then, lastly, households with functionally disabled children spend more on healthcare than households without disabilities, and this had impact on the type of recommendation.
Thank you very much, Doc. Next slide, please. So we have some policy recommendations. I'll go through them very quickly. One is, certainly we have all heard so far that there's the need for special attention and resources to be allocated to education of children with functional disabilities, and particularly investment in infrastructure that is friendly. You mentioned issues around how she had to climb up the stairs, and so it is very essential in their schools, in wherever that they find themselves, the infrastructure should be friendly and available. Development and improvement in learning outcomes of children with disabilities, which will be critical for learning outcomes and improvement of children with disabilities. We have already acknowledged the economic effects of having a child with disability in a family. So we are saying that cash transfers like the LEAP and other social transfers should be made targeted directly for children. It should be a special case for children with disabilities, so that they will not be left behind. Next slide, please. With the health insurance, we should also be provided with children with directly to children with disabilities in a very special way. They should have free access, free registration, everything. There should be no hindrance at all when it comes to access to the health insurance, because that is something that we can boldly and proudly say we have achieved for children with disabilities. We should also have resources available for serious advocacy and campaigns against abuse of children with disabilities. This should be something that we should all take, from the media to National Council for and the Commission for NCCE, National Commission for Civic Education, and all other partners. We should put a lot of resources together to ensure we advocate and campaign for against child abuse. There's a need for the promulgation and implementation of laws and policies that oblige laid out at the local level, and one of them is the District Assembly's Common Fund. That is the persons with disability component of that fund. It is in Act, the Disability Act, Act 715, which tax every and it support their activities. Now, the aim of the fund is to minimize poverty among PWDs, and then also to enhance their social image through dignified labor. But the Common Fund is a very important mechanism for which cash is actually given directly to persons with disability and to support their education, health, livelihood, and other needs that they have for their future participation. Next slide, please. So we have issues that we need to understand. One is that the Common Fund, as we all are aware, is not exactly too common for everybody. It's not adequate, and beneficiaries have confirmed this. There was one lady who said that she had to go and pay for a 17-year-old child who has some disability, 1,500 cedis, but then she was only given, this assembly only gave her 1,000 cedis. So where will she get the extra 500 cedis from? So this is a very important note. Then also the delays in the release of the Common Fund. We are all aware the district assemblies will always tell you there are delays, but this is something that the children with disabilities cannot wait. They must have immediate and regular access to the funds that come, so that they will benefit and will be used for the expenditures that they have to expend on. We also want to advocate that there's a lot of inequity in the allocation of the disability fund to the disadvantage of children. So we are saying that if the children with disabilities, the proportion of the person with disabilities that they make, the funds should be distributed or allocated proportionally, and should be given more or less the children that are disabled, they should have as much as their numbers compared to those adults who have also have disabilities. So it's important to see how much we give to these children with disabilities, and then make sure that there's equity in the allocation. Next slide, please. There's a need for MMDAs to sensitize their population on the policy and guidelines for the implementation of the fund, because there's some element of this misunderstanding or lack of understanding of what the fund is supposed to do for them. Because children with disabilities make up a higher proportion of PWDs, the percentage share of the Common Fund, disability fund of the Common Fund should be, I think I've mentioned that point already, not exactly 30%. I think we're saying in the range of up to how much the proportion of children with disabilities are, you give according to their numbers, and not say because they are little children, you don't give to them their proportion. Next slide, please. There's a need to strengthen the capacity of the social welfare community development of our MMDAs through adequate resource allocation to deliver on their mandate to meet the needs of PWDs at the district level. And we are saying that the annual action plans of MMDAs must prioritize and respond to challenges and issues facing PWDs and CWDs especially. And then we are saying that the MMDAs should also allocate a percentage of their IGF, that is internally generated fund, apart from the common fund. They also should find some money within the IGF to allocate for PWDs and CWDs. Next slide. I think this is the last one. The last. All right. So thank you very much for your attention.
Much. Charles Dradosi is with UNICEF as well. So what he's done is to bookend the presentation that Dr. Kwejo Opoku started. Thank you very much for your patience. I know it sounded like a lecture, but of course it was a lecture. This is a meeting. This is a serious meeting. It's not just a regular program. We are here to learn and to see how far we have gone in achieving equity for children with disabilities. Now, as our president, His Excellency, has been so fond of doing since the onset of the pandemic, we have to use science and data to make all decisions, right? So when he comes into our homes and he says, fellow Ghanaians, he always uses science and data. And that is why today we needed science and data in order for us not to sound like all the other talk shops. So just for those who have joined us on the virtual community, and Poch, please remind us of how people are reaching us virtually.
Exactly, and we are streaming live on UNICEF Ghana's pages on Facebook, Instagram, as well as on Twitter and YouTube. So you can just go on social media, type UNICEF Ghana. We are streaming live over there.
So on these places, if you just joined us, what we have been doing since about 9:10 is pretty simple. We have been looking at ways to achieve the best in terms of equity for persons with disabilities. And it started off with our Chief Advocacy and Comms Officer at UNICEF, Yulet Ewart, setting the tone for why we are here today and why it's important for us to do this regularly. We also had Mrs. Rita Kusit Sherma of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, letting us know essentially three things: what's being done, what can be done collectively and collaboratively for these wonderful people, and what she feels can be done better as well. It is at this point that we had Dr. Kwejo Opoku, who came to, for me, in the 20 minutes that he spoke, I could summarize it in three things: that there are children with disabilities who are unlikely to get an education or a good start or a head start in life, and that even for those who happen, the low percentage of those who happen to get education and be in school, they face significant barriers that make them compete fairly with their other counterparts who don't have disabilities. And finally, he also mentioned that these children are in need of more to make them compete better and fairly. And at that point, we had Charles Dradosi of UNICEF coming to give us the recommendations of the practical ways that UNICEF has found that we can all collectively, as a society, civil service organizations, and as individual people, can do better for these people. Now, we are here.
Yes, and we are here to hear personal stories. And 7 years ago, when I had my first daughter, I went to the hospital for a brief checkup, and then the doctor just looks at my daughter and is like, I think your child will be a child living with disability. And I was shocked immediately. I broke down in the doctor's office. I didn't know what was happening, and I had so many questions, and I was told to come back in the next 6 weeks, and that was the longest 6-week wait of my life. I was wondering whether I should go ahead with my outdooring. Who do I talk to? I had no one to talk to. After 6 weeks, we went back, and there was nothing wrong with my daughter. But then hits me that many persons living with disability and their caregivers do not have any help at all. And we are here to hear these personal stories. I humbly invite Benjamin Ejapon. He's a student at the University of Ghana who will come here to share his personal experience with us. Also here is Matilda Agbenyega. Well, I met her about 6 years ago when she was writing the Basic Education Certificate examination. She has a condition known as cerebral palsy, which is a neurological disorder. She cannot hold a pen to write section B, but here we are writing an exam and she's being graded like everyone else. And for hours, she can't answer section B and she cannot progress to senior high school till we had to step in and make a case for her at the computerized school selection and placement system. I won't continue her story. She'll come here to tell us the rest of her story. We also have in our midst Mrs. Mary Amwa Kufuor. She is a mother with a child living with disability. She's a teacher, a caregiver, as well as the founder of Clicks Africa Foundation. Then we have Madame Rosalind Trenate. She is a business owner in the hospitality space, as well as founder of the Africa Dyslexia Organization. Please come on stage as we begin these personal stories. And these are the stories that bind us all together. And they'll be here to give us first-hand perspective about the situation at hand. And I also invite one of us, he's in our midst, to also moderate this event with us. Gary will come along with him, and he is Farid Gombela. He will also help us to get these stories, these personal stories.
Farid is here because, there's a realization that Portia and I, no matter how much of advocacy we do, we cannot truly understand the situation of persons with disabilities. As you can see, Farid is here. He is absolutely special, and he most likely will be able to ask questions that, speak to more personal interactions with these special people. Farid, this is your microphone. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to be here.
I think, Farid, you would like to, let's give you a seat. Yeah. There you go. Excellent. So, Farid, over to you. There's Benjamin here, there's Matilda here, there's Mrs. Mariamwa, and there's Rosalind Trenate.
Okay.
Well.
All right. Once again, I welcome you all to this session of today's event. Of course, during the roundtable discussion, we are going to be finding out how we can advance equity and inclusion of children with disabilities. Equity and inclusion of children with disabilities here in Ghana. So, without much ado, I'll start with Benjamin Ejapon. So you are...
So Benjamin is just taking a quick bathroom break.
Okay.
He'll be here in about a second, and so please, you can.
All right, no problem. So we heard briefly about Matilda, your story, right? And for me, it's quite unfortunate that as a person with disability, you live in a society where you don't get the right support to be able to advance or further your education. So, Matilda, can you walk us through your experience accessing, quality education in Ghana? How has it been for you, and what kind of challenges have you faced along the way?
Ghana. Okay. When I was a child, my 4 years, I was admitted to school, but unfortunately, they did not accept me. So my parents went ahead to seek for a private school, and they admitted me. So I started from nursery through to primary, but because I cannot write, so when I reached Form 2, I was not able to write my BC, and I could not move ahead. So my parents took me to a special school at Medina. So when I went there, I saw the environment was not improving on my condition, because when I was in my private school, I was learning, I was being communicated with the students, but yeah, we are on the same level. Some cannot talk, others cannot express themselves. So I told my daddy that I will not go to school again. So I came home for about 4 years. So after that, one of our family friends was a headmaster at Medina Presby School, and he told my daddy that if I can read and write, then they should provide me with a laptop. So then they admitted me, and I started at Form 2. And I wrote my BSc and moved to senior high school. Thank you.
Excellent.
Wow. That is really inspiring, Matilda. That's really, really inspiring. So you told us that in spite of all of these challenges, you were able to write your BC. How was the support like when you were writing your BC? Did you get support from your teachers? Did you get support from WAEC, from GES? How was it like for you?
WAEC gave me an extra time, and my teachers supported me.
Okay. So you had that support for your BEC, and I believe that you also went to senior high school, right?
Yes.
So after SHS, did you get the same level of support for your WASI exam? And if you didn't, what happened? What went wrong?
For my WASI exam, they gave me extra time, but the problem was the mathematics software was not provided for me. So I couldn't answer question for mathematics, but I did the 38, the possible answer.
Wow. Okay, that's really sad. I mean, we will think that for a country that has had independence for about 60 years plus, some of these challenges at this point would have been, addressed in a way that gives everybody an equal footing to accessing quality education. But, well, Matilda, in spite of that, you have made it this far. What are your plans right now, and what kind of dreams do you have for the future?
My plans right now is to enter tertiary school and become a psychologist.
Sorry, and become a...
Psychology.
Wow, impressive. Please, can we clap for her? That's really impressive. Wow, psychologist. That's great. I believe Benjamin is back. Yes. Benjamin, so you are in the University of Ghana in your final year. What are you studying? Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Benjamin. Yeah.
Okay, so good morning, everybody, and I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. So, to your question, Mr. Moderator, I'm in level 400, as you rightly said, in the University of Ghana, and I'm a law student.
Wow. Why law? Of all the things. Wow.
Okay. I had a passion for it. Initially, I thought it wasn't possible. You know, the barriers and all that. So we kept on persevering, but I wanted to do when I really see people, and what really piqued my interest in the law was the 2013 election petition. Yes.
You and I were not
really,
there.
yeah, you and I were not there. I really enjoyed it. So from there, I told myself I wanted to be a lawyer one day.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right, nice. I mean, it's definitely nice to see that a lot more, persons with disability are not just doing our advocacy in an abstract manner, but we are taking on programs that put us in positions of power to be able to influence change, and that's good to hear. So you have been through the educational system in Ghana, and I'm sure you have been through, say, a segregated system where you were only with people who are visually impaired like you, and you have also experienced a system where you have been in the same classroom with people who can see. Can you tell us how the difference has been like coming from a segregated, in quotes, background of only visually impaired students and now having to interact with people who can see unlike you? And how has the experience been like? Have you had a support from your seeing colleagues in class during your, lectures, in your hall of residence and stuff like that?
All right, so like you rightly said, yeah, I started my basic education at a Cropon School for the Blind, where, like the name implies, it is specifically for blind people. So over there, we are all the same. So that's kind of sense of belongingness. We feel like we are equal. But after I graduated and then moved on to Okwapman School to continue with my education, it was something new because I wasn't used to that. In fact, initially, to tell you the truth, it wasn't easy at all. When we got there, you could be coming and then people would just be running. You don't know what's happening. People are just
running.
Like, what's happening? So, it was kind of funny. So after we began classes.
Wait, are they running away from you?
Running away from you.
Because you are visually impaired?
Maybe the visual impairment is contagious. And so
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how did you feel? I can imagine, being coming from a society where you are all blind and all of you are just, hanging out, chilling out together. And then you get to a point where people are literally running away from you, like some Ebola or something. Well, so, but how has that, exposure shaped your overall thinking, in terms of accessing quality education in life? Do you feel like people are a lot more accommodating once they get to know you? And how do you breach that initial awkwardness? Like, before someone would see you and talk to you, and they have probably formed opinions about you, how are you able to break through that awkwardness and reach out to make friends and, form partnerships?
All right, so I think you even answered some part of the question. I think people become very accommodating when they get to understand you. So like I was saying, after we began classes and then, we went to class, they were asking questions. Some questions the same colleagues could not answer. And we started answering, and then people realized that, hey, Charlie, these people to them, they. So those things, so after the class, people will come to you, how are you able to answer this question? You were not holding any book. We were holding notes, but we couldn't answer the question. How was it? So initially, I was hurt when they were doing that. But I realized that I could take advantage of the opportunity and then enlighten those people, because I realized it wasn't their fault. They were just ignorant. They didn't understand persons with disability. I had this friend who told me that before she came to the law school, that's the University of Ghana,
okay,
she only saw persons with disability, especially those with visual impairment, on the streets, begging. And so her whole life, that has been her opinion. Wow. So when she saw me over there, she was like, what's this guy doing here? And so she finally gathered courage, approached me, and I explained the whole lot to her. She initially even thought that we don't even write exams and all that.
Wow.
So I think the education must be intensified so that people would really understand us and then give us the opportunity we so deserve.
All right, great, great. So simply put, by letting people know what you are capable of as a person with disability, that helps to break through any barriers or any awkwardness that may exist in terms of social and other interactions. Great. Has there been a moment or an experience during this journey of yours, your educational journey, that has impacted you so strongly, and had a significant influence on your life? Any particular experience that comes to mind that has shaped your thinking and your perspective, particularly within your educational journey?
Okay, a lot of them. So, for instance, even in the family, when they were reading the research, I was so happy because there were people, like I said, when we started, we could see. I mean, I could see before this association came. When I went to school for the blind,
you could actually see before you became blind.
For
Wow.
those who know Dansoman, I attended Bitom basic school. I went to Ave Maria Eleto and then Mount Olivet, so I could see to like class 3 or something like that. So, I mean, when the situation met us in the way, people thought, oh, I mean, we're going to school for the blind, go there, get married. I mean, they thought we're not going to even live there. It's like a home for visually impaired, that's all. That's the end of your life. So, when you hear such comments from people, it really encourages you, it shapes you, and then gives you the mindset to kind of persist in order to make a statement to the world that we are equally capable when given the opportunity.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, so before I move on from you, very quickly, what specific changes or improvements would you like to see, particularly within the educational system, that would make the lives of children with disability a lot more bearable?
Okay. So, in the recommendations, I think they said some of it. But I would say that apart from making the facilities and buildings accessible and all that, I think we should all come on board, the corporate world, the government, and then provide assistive devices to disabled people, and it will really go a long way to help us. When, for instance, those with hearing impairment are given the hearing aids, are given the support they need. Some visually impaired persons need recorders, laptops and those things. When we get them, we can equally function as our senior colleagues. So now in the secondary school, for instance, we are allowed to type the WAEC exams with the computer if you are able to do that. So we are gradually moving away from the time where Braille was the sole medium for visually impaired persons. And so I think when such gadgets are made accessible and affordable, affordability is very key. I think those equipments are very expensive, and so they hinder our ability to kind of get them, and the support system is very low.
Wow.
If I may just step in, thank you very much for your attention. I see everybody is listening with rapt attention because of the nature of the conversation. Just to say, Farid, that Matilda was feeling a bit cold, and so she's gone to sit there. So she's not with you on the panel. So she's using a mobile microphone, and you can address her from here.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Okay. And also, we'd like the session to be a bit more interactive so that they can all answer the same questions at the same time, and it's more of a chat that way. But thank you very much so far, and I hope you are enjoying yourselves.
Definitely. Okay, so yes, we are still having the conversation with our esteemed panel, and it's been quite insightful so far. We have heard from Matilda, we have just heard from Benjamin, and I'll proceed to Madam Mary Amwa. And of course, some of the questions, like Gary said, will be thrown back and forth between all our other panel. So, Mrs. Mary Amwa, you find yourself in a very unique position. So you are a mother who has a child with disability, and you have found the will and courage to go beyond your own personal caregiving to establish an organization that provides support services for other children with autism. How has the journey been like for you? First of all, as a mother with, a child with disability.
Thank you very much for the question. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I must say that it has been an emotional morning for me, listening to the personal experiences. Yesterday, I had to see my doctor. I went there and I was like, for the past 2 months, I see myself crying every day. What's happening to me? He said, probably you are burnt out. You just need a little break. Unfortunately, we get up every morning and you see us so strong, but behind the scenes, a lot goes on. I have been sleep deprived for the past 2 weeks. No sleep at all.
Wow.
Even last night. But coming to your question, I have been fortunate enough to have a family that is very supportive. So you see me on the forefront doing a lot of the things. But behind the scene, I have a whole village. And when I talk of a village, my husband, my children, and the extended family. Now, in Ghana, it is not that easy to go public to talk about disability. Sometimes you need the permission of your husband. Sometimes you need the permission of your in-laws. Is it something you would like to talk about it publicly? So a lot of the times we hear people, parents don't want to say, trust me. On the other side, you dare not talk. So that is the other side we don't get to hear. How have I been able to support or, work at Clicks? I have a very dedicated team. I noticed that you need, whatever you want people to have clear guidelines, even if you have to write them down. Let people know what your expectation of them. Providing existing protocols or how you want things to be done. So for instance, if you come to the center, especially if it's not an appointment, there's someone trained to be able to listen to you when you come in. I hope my microphone. Okay. Thank you. So when you come in, and I look at all my staff and I know who can do what best. I know someone who has a very good listening ear. So I said, okay, Ekuya, you'll be at the front desk, listening to parents. A lot of the times, you notice that parents come in and they just want people who could understand so they can talk. Somebody without, charging them so they can tell you what they are going through. A lot of the times at the center, when you bring your child, we assess the child first, and then we ask you, what are your expectations of your child? Okay. Some of the parents have been to other places, but I also notice that even as they want support, they know little about what their children, challenges are. Yeah. And so providing information is very important. Another area that we've been able to do at the center is placing them in appropriate support groups. This is so important. And I would like to share this experience. When it comes to autism, for instance, my daughter is 20 years, but practically, she's like a 1-year-old.
Wow.
Every single day, you have to make sure that you are caring for her, from bathing her to brushing, to dressing, to everything.
Does it sometimes give you like stress? I mean, I know this is kind of an obvious question, but do you sometimes feel like, oh God, I'm tired of this?
Every single day. And it is the truth. Every single day. Sometimes you feel like your world has come to an end. There are times that you feel like you are cursed because the challenges don't end. You do 1,000 things for your child only to see one progress. And it can be a turn off for you because, so if I use my daughter, for example, she finds it very difficult to communicate. Just recently, I also noticed that she's found herself masturbating and other things, and I asked myself, what am I going to do? In a world where people understand just a little about their condition. Here you are with a 20-year-old. All other biological processes does not stop because they have disability. She feels like any 20-year-old. Here is a case she doesn't even understand what is done in private and what is done in public. How do I find the appropriate words to even explain to her? And so it's very difficult. And trust me, sometimes you can't go to hospital. You sit in front of a doctor and you know that they don't even have the answers. And you come home. So with stress, it happens every day.
Wow. But since you are here sharing your experience and talking to us, and indeed, I mean, some of the things you have said are quite emotional and very touching. How have you been able to go beyond the feelings of dejection and still get up every day and say, I want to do this, to the point of even running a whole organization that provides these services? What inspires you? What gives you that motivation to get up every day and keep going regardless?
So I remember about 12 years ago, my daughter was fortunate enough to be accepted and offered admission at a school. 3 weeks after the admission, being accepted into this school, I was called by the headmaster. And then he says, Auntie Mary, since we enrolled your child, 14 parents have withdrawn their children from the class.
Wow.
That was very sad. So you see, even when you are fortunate enough to have a school that will accept your child, there are also parents in the school who would, stigmatize against you. And stigma is so huge. It happens everywhere, at church, in the community, everywhere. I remember one time at church, somebody goes, are you the woman with a sick child?
Wow.
And, maybe for lack of better words, these days, these things don't get to me, but before it was difficult. There were times that, you stopped going to church because you would have thought that, and I say this, I know there are pastors here, hear it from me, we need you. You would have felt that church is where everybody is accepted. If there's going to be any differentiation, or it shouldn't be at church. But trust me, that is where it starts, the biggest stigma. I am telling you, I stopped going to church for 6 years.
Wow. I mean, we say Ghanaians are hospitable people. It just makes you wonder to what extent we push this hospitality. I mean, I can imagine. One more thing I would want to find out from you, though, because from what you are saying, I mean, I've known it as someone who is visually impaired, and I've seen how sometimes my own mom has struggled with, supporting and helping. How has it been for you reaching out to some of these parents and, trying to support them and help them, find that confidence to keep going, especially with your Clicks Africa Foundation?
I think support in any form, it's so welcoming. Having a challenge and having someone who understands you goes a long way. At least you know that you are not alone. You know that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, for instance, when at 9 years my daughter was not potty trained, at the same time she started menstruating. And I asked God, why? Why me? And why at that time? And I remember reaching out to another parent and asking, how am I going to teach her to be able to take care of herself? I remember the first 7 days, everywhere in my house was stained with blood. You put the sanitary pad there, she takes it out, and sometimes she wants to even chew on it. And I remember a parent telling me, now, whenever you are doing that, make sure she watches. Because some of these children, you need to learn what their learning style is to be able to support. So I started doing that. Then another parent said, can you get the sanitary pad and get 18 tomatoes? Spread it on it, stick it into the panty, and let her see how, a form of modeling.
Okay.
I used the tomato paste. She looked at me and started laughing like, this woman, you okay? But it took us 3 years to be able to support her to do this for us. So what I'm trying to say is support groups. It's so important. Being in that support group. Now, if we can move away a little bit, and I make this passionate call to everybody here. Stigma is so huge. Please, and please once again, if not for anything at all, hold these parents in prayer. Ask them, how are you doing? How do you get the strength to even get up? People just don't care. I've had people who come to you and say, have you heard about Pastor Chris? Have you heard about it? Why don't you go there? Somebody looked at me and said, maybe you may be saying famine feature. In other words, I'm prayerful enough. My Bible tells me that sometimes some of these happen so that the clock can be seen. It takes the grace of God for us to be here. You don't have that to decide what happens to us. So please, let's move away from social stigma. At least that alone will help a lot of parents to feel free and share openly and come out.
And Farid, we always see Auntie Mary very strong, but sometimes strong women cry. So Auntie Mary, just a big hug from me to you to show that we see you.
I mean, she deserves it. She deserves it.
And sometime just last year, we heard the story of a midwife and then a teacher who dropped their child in the forest for the child to die. And these are educated people in society, a teacher and a midwife. How did we get there? So we have to do whatever it takes to break the cycle of stigma among children living with disability in Ghana. Farid.
Definitely. And please, let's clap for Auntie Mary. This is really difficult. I mean,
Farid, I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
I think we also take mental health issues for granted.
True. Very, very true.
So maybe even as we have this conversation, can we think of avenues that will offer these parents or young adults going through this, a place that you can go, sometimes just open up and, talk. Because we think whenever we mention mental health, everybody is thinking about mental. And I think I've shared this on social media all the time. One day when I was going through depression and I was asked to go there, I looked at myself, I said, every day you are on TV, somebody sees you going there, say, Mami, wabodam. I think in our own way, when we talk about mental health, it's not just, sanity and not being insane. I think there's a thin line.
Sure.
We need to talk about mental health.
Sure. I feel like it's an issue that we assume in Ghana that, well, they say the black man doesn't have mental health issues. We solve our problems ourselves. But yes, I think it's definitely a point we must emphasize. Let's all, create that safe space where we all can share. Because sometimes, like Auntie Portia said, you might come up as appearing tough and strong, but within you, the kind of battles you are facing, they say only God. Well, so Auntie Rosalind Abigail, you are an employer within the hospitality space. Can you share with us your experience? I mean, basically, what do you do? What kind of services do you provide? And what has your experience been over the years?
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Listening to the story, my heart is so broken, but I also realize that you understand it more if you have faced certain challenges before. And so though I'm sitting here and you might think like, but what is wrong with her? I have been through also a challenge where I felt marginalized before. And that is why I'm very passionate with what I do. So I'm a hospitality professional, yes, indeed. That is what I went to school to study. But I would say that my life journey was what led me to the hospitality industry, where I was a young girl going to school, and up until the age of 17, I couldn't even write my name.
Wow.
I couldn't read, I couldn't write. And writing BC, it got to BC, I was 17, turning 18.
Wow.
because I've repeated so many times. And my parents were like, you got to finish this year.
But what was the problem? What was the difficulty you had in trying to pass these exams?
Well, at that time, nobody knew. But the only thing that I knew was that I was being referred as lazy, dumb, stupid, uneducable, slow learner.
Wow.
So many names. So just always being picked up, you're in the classroom with dictations and you're always being caned. So basically we all went to school and we had some students because these students are slow learners, so nothing you teach them, they get it. And we already labeled them that they can't perform in anything or they cannot amount to anything. And so the issue. But I'll come back as to what the issue now is. So JHS, the school was like, you know what, we can't add you to the candidate to write for the BEC because we are afraid that you're going to taint our results. But here was I, turning 18, and you all know that at that age I should be finishing high school, right?
Yes.
And so they said, okay, then your parents should take you to a village and find a school that they can register you to write the BEC. And so that's what my parents did. We went to a village.
How did it make you feel at the time?
I mean, just imagine a teenager, a girl, teenager going through experience. For me, my heart was broken. My self-confidence was damaged, which is something even at adult age I'm still repairing. These were some of the experiences I went. And so let's say, assume what I'm wearing was the uniform that we were wearing in my school that I was used to. And then you go to the village school and then you go and sew a new school uniform, the brown and yellow. And then during BACE time, you go to the school or you go to where the exam center with new faces that you've never seen in your life. You sit in the same classroom with them. And trust me, I couldn't read a word on the exam paper.
Wow.
And so the results came and I had failed. And everybody was like, yeah, we said it. We said you're lazy. We said you're dumb. He said you can never amount to anything.
So while you were going through these difficulties, there was no support system, not family, not school teachers, nobody who could identify that, oh, maybe she has a learning disability or something that is just making it difficult for her. You didn't have that kind of support?
No, I did not. I feel like the support or what everybody expected from my parents and from school is, what can you do, as in what is on your result. So I was always measured by my academic performance, and so even my parents were blind to some other abilities that I could have, like maybe what are your talents, what are the things you are interested in, should we look at different mechanisms to teach you? Nothing. It was all about you learn and you're not learning, you're a bad girl, so being picked on all the time. Well, fast forward to the story. I failed, yes. Everybody was suggesting, go and do this, let her learn some trade and live her life. And it took just a young boy who was just like a year older than me, a friend, and said, but Rosalind, I think you can go to a culinary school at that time, like catering school.
Okay.
And I asked why, and he said, when we come to your home, you love to cook, you love to entertain. Like, you pick every little ingredient and you turn it into something. And I feel that is your talent. And so go to a vocational school. And I was like, really? When I told my parents, my dad was like, oh, going back to a school, you're going to waste another whole 3 years funding you for your school. And I said, just give me one last chance. But you know, by the grace of God, that was the turning around for me.
Wow.
That school, I excelled, I did very well, and for the fact in my life, from say to 18 years that I will remember, the proprietress of the school said to my dad, your child is good.
Wow.
She's doing
wow.
well.
Let's give it up. Wow. So it simply meant that you needed to find a system or a place for you. It doesn't mean that anybody is useless in this world.
Exactly.
You just need to find that place or that system that works for you.
Exactly. And that's what I found. And so today it makes sense to me why I excelled in the vocational school, because I'm a kinesthetic learner. I learn by doing practicals. And so if you put me in a classroom where you just talking and expecting me to write
chew and pour,
you will end up labeling me saying that I'm a slow learner. But indeed, I'm very intelligent. Okay,
yes.
So that's what led me to the vocational school, finished, came into the industry, worked as a junior chef, and then discovered a passion for hospitality management. And then when I was 26, so I skipped high school. Of course, I didn't have ability to go to high school. When I was 26, I sat for the matured student entrance exams. I passed and went on to go to university, did my bachelor's degree, went on to do my master's degree, also in hospitality management.
Wow.
But I want to say this. I wasn't the only one in the school with issues with learning disability. We were a lot. Some of them today, when I ask about them, it is so sad where they are. And I could have been there. And what you see today, and the little I'm doing to make impact in Ghana and around the world, would have been in some village with nothing to write about. I wouldn't even be on this stage with you. And so at my master's level was where somebody whispered and was like, "Are you dyslexic?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And said, "Dyslexia." And I said, "What is dyslexia?" Says it's a form of learning disability which is associated with reading, writing, encoding, and decoding words. And I was like, "What?" So he gave me the International Dyslexia Association website, and they have a checklist. So I went, if it's about 100 questions, trust me, I ticked everything because he described me. And so I came back and told him, and I said, "Prof,
and you had, sorry to cut in, you had no idea until you got to your master's."
No, I didn't have an idea. To be honest with you, one time I spoke at an event, I used to share my story of not reading and writing early to motivate young ones. And there was a friend, Farida Badwin, in the audience. So after that, she called me and said, "Oh, I think you have dyslexia." Trust me, when she said that, she said this 2 years before I had my diagnosis. So when she said it and I heard dyslexia, I was like, "Hey, Farida, me, the way I've suffered in my life with labeling, you are saying this dyslexia, I'm not even going to find out what dyslexia is." So I threw it away until the second time it was mentioned to me. And when I read and I found myself into it, I decided to have assessments, and it confirmed that I have severe dyslexia, but then also my intelligence, my IQ is very high in other areas. So what does that mean when it comes to the workplace? Is to make things accessible, like text-to-speech, assistive technologies that can help you. So the moment I found out, I bought a laptop, I started putting softwares on it, Glamoury, different type of software, and my productivity level really went above, because the idea of to do something, it is there. But tell me, like what I'm telling you now, to put it in writing, that is where my challenge is. So how about if I have a laptop that I could speak to the laptop of exactly what I'm saying and summarize this, then you can have a working document.
A speech to text kind of.
Exactly. And so that is what we are telling employers, that listen, there are diverse people in your workplaces and you have to study them. I'll share this with you. I used to work at Walt Disney World in the US. The moment I got there, and I was in a position as a guest experience manager. So the moment I got there, I told them, listen, I'm dyslexic. Here is my report. I am not the one you would ask to write a report. I am not the right person you ask to take minutes at the meetings. but I am the person that puts a problem in front of me. And let me go and think about strategies that we can use to solve the issues.
Wow.
And trust me, they accepted it like, oh, yeah, we do this all the time. But I didn't find that here in Ghana, when you go to companies, you don't have that acceptance. And my productivity level at Disney was very high. But imagine if they have engaged me in report writing. They would say that, oh, this girl, she doesn't know anything. After going to school in Ghana, Switzerland, and everything, and coming, she doesn't know anything. But it's not because I don't know anything. It's just because I have certain challenges, just like my fellow colleagues here who are talking.
Yeah.
They all have challenges. But how do we support them to bring the best in them?
Fine.
Benjamin wants to be a lawyer. So how can he be an excellent lawyer? We need a law firm that is ready to employ him, make things accessible, policies accessible, make the workplace inclusive, diverse, and then equity, having a share in resources so that he can thrive.
Sure, definitely. I mean, that's so impressive. Anyone listening to you today would not believe the story you told us before now. I mean, wow. This is definitely impressive. And I must just add that your organization was recently recognized by GES, which is something that I'm sure is a milestone that we should also celebrate. Congrats on that. So, yes. Please, clap for her. It's a great achievement. So, yes, we are going to be wrapping up shortly, but just a few questions around the table. So, I'll go back to you, Matilda. Matilda, do you think that the society, the Ghanaian society, provides enough support for persons with disability in terms of accessing healthcare and public transport? So I'm going to pass this question around. Do you think that the Ghanaian government or society in general provides adequate support for persons with disability in accessing healthcare and public transport?
Oh, I will talk about the public transport. The public transport, because you are a disability person, when you sit in a total, the person next to you does not want to sit beside you. They think your condition is contagious, and sometimes the mate and the driver cannot even pick you. And climbing the total, sometimes you can hurt yourself or cause more damage to yourself.
Does anybody help you anytime you try to, board a trotro or taxi? Do you get people trying to help, or they rather move away?
I don't board a trotro. I used to.
Only taxis?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's unfortunate. But what about going to the hospital quickly before? Going to the hospital, do you get the same kind of support if you go to the OPD or something like that? Do you get people there who are able to support you?
No. Wow. But during my visiting the hospital, I used to go with my parents. So my parents would do all the necessary things there. And sometimes when you get to the consulting room, when you tell the doctors what your problem is, they don't give you what you need for you to improve on your health. Sometimes they don't even understand your condition.
Wow. Of all places, the hospital. Wow. Well, Benjamin, same question for you. What do you think our society has done to advance, healthcare for persons with disability? And also, how do you feel as a person with disability patronizing public transport here in Ghana?
Okay, thank you very much, Fari. You see, let me start by saying that in Ghana, we are interested in having the policies. They always say we have the laws. So we have the Disability Act, Act 715, 2006, I should think. This has been assented to somewhere, August 2006. Is it being implemented? Are we seeing the provisions in the Act being manifested in public places? So when it comes to transportation, I know that the Act provides that even on public buses, they are to reserve 2 seats for persons with disability.
Hey,
and
are
so,
you talking about trotro?
The buses, yeah.
Wow.
Easy.
First time I'm hearing of this.
Yeah, it's in the Act. I should think somewhere section 24, I'm not too sure, but
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And so the bus is full and there is no person with disability before whoever, the conductor, can give those seats to other people.
Wow.
Do we see this in Ghana? Does it work? No. And so we are quick in making the laws. Oh, we have the Disability Act. We are supporting the people. The parliament will go and then pass the laws, and then that's all. The law will be lying on the desk. So
say yeah.
No. Yeah. So you see, when I was in school for the blind, I would travel from Ekropon to Medina. When you get to Medina, how to get someone to even assist you board the vehicle? A friend shared an experience with me. He was coming from Western region. He got there, well dressed, and then this lady was selling by the roadside, tried to approach her. Oh, I beg, I want you to help me cross the road. And the person was like, "Brami, buy a cry and touch you, Mr. Like, really?
Darling.
I mean,
You thought he was begging.
To beg.
Wow.
I mean, this is the mindset.
Wow.
And so it becomes very difficult.
Okay.
And when it comes to the
healthcare.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I went to the hospital myself with my mother, who is not very educated. You won't believe it. The doctor was talking to my mother, as if I can't speak. I was like,
oh my
what is
goodness.
happening?
Oh my goodness.
You see, these things are happening, and if we don't have the opportunity to say some of these things, people will not know.
Wow.
I mean, I'm visually impaired. I can speak. I don't have a
visually
speech
impaired doesn't
problem.
mean your
Doesn't mean my mind is not working. Will my mother know where I feel the pain better than myself? I mean, how is that possible?
Wow.
So these are some of the challenges. I don't think in Ghana you can go to the hospital on your own without an aid as a visually impaired and then receive any proper assistance. When it comes to the facilities, I shouldn't even talk about it.
Wow.
Making the buildings accessible, no, I don't think so. There are no elevators, the staircases are not friendly, everything is...
Wow.
I mean, we don't plan considering persons with disabilities.
Everything made bazaar. Okay, so let me come to Auntie Mary quickly. You have been, I'm sure, frequenting the hospital, with your daughter. How has it been like, and how have you managed to also patronize public transport as well?
So we all have a lot to share when it comes to hospital.
Yeah. Just make it quick for us, please.
Yes, so my daughter, for instance, has a lot of sensory issues. She wouldn't like you to touch her, hug her, and those kind. And now it's getting better. When you go to hospital, they have this thermometer where they put under your armpits and take the
temperature.
The temperature.
Yeah.
There was no way she was going to allow this nurse to do it, and we were asked to leave the line. Meanwhile, we got there at 5:40 a.m. We were not seen. So next time, they have this digital one. I bought one myself. So before we get to the nurse's table, I had already done mine. So I'll show it to you, please. Here you are, 36, 37.
Wow.
So that's one of them. And then sometimes too, I think that from personal experience, when we talk about disability in Ghana, people will want to see so they can understand. When it comes to, for instance, like she said, they'll look at you and you look very perfect. So why would they don't understand?
Yeah.
Somebody will say, I don't know, buyer penina udinachi. It has been very difficult. But I think with awareness, things are changing. I would like to even applaud the Ghana Midwifery Fair Situation, for instance. Now they come for practicum at our centers, at the early intervention. So they come for 3 weeks where they are in the classroom with the children. So they can experience some of these things we are talking about.
Wow.
As for the trotro, I've had my own wahala. So we sit in the trotro and we are packed. And my daughter, there's no way you can sit left or right. So if you come closer, she goes this way. If you come left, she goes this way. Like, don't touch me. And people will look at her like, so I started buying 3 seats. So as soon as we sit
you have to pay for 3 seats.
Yeah, so I'll pay for extra so nobody touches. And, you have to pay. And sometimes they don't understand. Madam, why would you? But I had to explain. She will not understand.
Wow.
And whenever anybody, when the trotro stops, it means we must all get down. So she doesn't. I said, Nana, we haven't gotten to where we are going. She says, no way, let's get down. Okay. Once people are getting down, everybody must get down.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much for sharing. Wow, that's quite interesting. And so we are wrapping up the conversation today. I'm sure we all have learned a lot. Just to give my panelists 30 seconds to just wrap up on 30 seconds each to wrap up on what they would like to see, what kind of changes they would like to see within our, educational space for persons with disability. So I'll start with you, Auntie Rosalind. 30 seconds, please.
Thank you very much. I had a tall list of things I would want us to see.
Well, you can just list it for us.
But because of the conversations that we are having, I realized regardless of whatever recommendations you give, if the people don't understand, it's not going to get anywhere. Therefore, I recommend awareness, awareness, awareness. Our awareness to our public, awareness in our education system, that will get us to somewhere. Because you're talking about the inclusive education policy. If they don't understand, if the teachers don't understand, we will not get anywhere. Therefore, all this tall list of about 10 recommendations, I would just say awareness is the key for us to start there. We've started a conversation, but for us to get people to understand,
awareness.
For us to get our workplaces to understand, for us to get our institution, our churches, our traditional rulers to understand is awareness.
Awareness, awareness, awareness. That's what Auntie Rosalind is telling us, and that's so true. Matilda, what about you? What would be your 30-second recommendation on the way forward for persons with disability?
Hello. We should be able to give us the opportunity to access education in terms of when you are done with senior high school. You should be able to walk into any university to apply.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Great. So, finally, from you, Benjamin, what will be your recommendation, in terms of solving some of the issues we have identified here today?
All right, so I would say that the laws are there, the policies are there. As we create awareness and we know the capabilities of persons living with disability, give us the opportunity. Let the laws work. Let's give an equal playing field. And then when we are given the facilities and the needed support, we even thrive better than our abled colleagues. So to the government, to corporate organizations, to institutions, help us, and we can help make the society a much more better place for all of us.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, this session has definitely been very exciting, and I have learned a lot personally, and I know that all of us here have picked great, nuggets from the conversations. Let's keep creating the awareness. Let's implement the policies, and let's just be human. That's all I'll say. Just be human. If you haven't experienced any disability before, you may not understand what it means to go through the daily struggles of being a person with disability or being a caregiver of someone with disability. But just be human. Just understand that we are all human beings and we all deserve the right to a fair and successful life. My name is Farid Gombela, and I've been your moderator for this section. Thank you
so much, Farid. Please don't get up. Benjamin, Farid, Auntie Mary, and Rosalind, please don't get up. Matilda will join for a few photos, and I'll just say this as they take the few photos, and then we stretch our legs, for a few minutes. What, 5 minutes? Or 10? 5, 10 minutes? Yeah. So while Matilda comes, interesting session. It's been amazing. There's so much, and so I mean, Yulette from UNICEF is the only one who knows this. For me, it's even more personal that I've met Auntie Mary here. When she saw me, she said, because I called her 2 weeks ago. Last week Monday, I was in Rwanda for some work, and I arrived only on Sunday. But I was supposed to see Auntie Mary last week because I had to speak to her. My son will be 4 years in July, and my son is autistic. So my son has a disability, my first son. And everything they say here, I know. Everything they say here.
Indeed, it takes a village to raise a child living with disability.
This is the first time I'm saying this in public.
It's just like a therapy session over here. Let's applaud.
I really wish my wife were here. I think I'm a bit stronger than my wife. So she couldn't get in touch with me the day I was flying out and coming to Ghana because my phone was off. We had gone for the finals of the event. We had finished. We had gone out to chill a bit, and so my phone was off. So when I woke up, it was time to go. I couldn't charge my phone, and she texted, and she couldn't hear from me. So she heard from me when I got to Kotoka. I had charged with my power bank. I put my phone on, and she had texted, and so she said she had been crying the whole time because she thought something had happened to me, and she didn't know how she was going to manage with our son without me. This is 2 days ago.
It takes a strong man to share this kind of story. Gary, we applaud you for sharing this experience.
We are just doing, as they all know, we are just doing our job. It's just what we do as well. So let's take a few photos and then
you can stretch
your legs.
Take a quick break.
Well.
You can stretch.
Thank you. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Yeah. Thanks. Today,
just a quick reminder
this wonderful school, steeped in history, is hosting all of us for the Unified Football for Inclusion, celebrating World Children's Day 2022.
As we prepare to mark World Children's Day this year, we know that the theme is about inclusion and equity. You're showing everyone in Ghana that all children, without discrimination, can be engaged in sports and participate in games to realize their full potential. When everyone is given a fair chance and an opportunity and support, society is richer, society is more prosperous. It's about ability.
I'm very glad to be here to witness the various games. This really shows that there is no discrimination, neither people look down on us, but we are included in the society.
It's because of the blind I came here to play football, and I've meet a lot of friends here.
As they have come, we have made a lot of friends across different schools, and it has bring love and unity to us. And we thank UNICEF Ghana for making this thing possible for us.
I think that the organization has been good. You could see clearly that the kids are very enthusiastic, and it's important for us to create such platforms for the world to know about the rights of our kids, our brothers and sisters, who perhaps will be the leaders of our country in the future. I think this is very, very important.
So I'm very, very happy today.
I feel better than I feel happy.
I feel so excited.
So UNICEF is very happy to be collaborating with the Ghana Education Service and Special Olympics to organize this national games to prepare our athletes who have intellectual and developmental disability for the International Special Olympic Games, which comes up next year in Germany.
I think the future is bright for them. For me, I'm happy that now the education is coming up. Sports like this make the community see that they are also regular, they can also do something for themselves. So the message would escalate. And then people that have such children with special, don't keep them in their homes and under lock and key. They'll bring them to their school so that whatever they have and their talents will be honest and then develop so that the children will benefit from it.
Disability is not inability. If everyone will say you are a disability child, you can't do this, you can't do that, that's wrong. Tell the person, I can make it. That's what today I prove.
All children have rights irrespective of their abilities, and we all have a duty to give them opportunities to develop to their full potential. You can all be champions of child rights and inclusion. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Is it? Me is never.
Another 5 minutes, and then we will end the stretching of legs, please, and then we'll resume the final bit of the conversations. You can hear us now. For all those of you watching online via our streams, thank you very much for your partners, Ghana Federation of Disability Organization, and also, of course, with the sponsorship of the Norwegian Embassy and another auspicious of UNICEF. We have been here to have conversations on helping to achieve equity and equality for persons with disabilities. It's been a wonderful session of learning and trying to understand what those with disabilities feel, how they live every day, and what we can do to improve their lot. Thank you very much for your
My name is Morris. I am 7 years old.
My name is Abdurrahman Fusheina. I am 14 years old. The food I like best is rice and TZ.
I want to become a doctor so I can buy a motorcycle for the clinic.
Inclusive education is an arrangement which provides an opportunity for every child, irrespective of that child's circumstance, to benefit from formal educational system.
And it all starts with accepting them for who they are, for what they are, where they are, and then bring them in, let them fit, accommodate them, find ways and means of making them fit in.
Good morning.
Morris cannot walk, and the first time he came, the children here, they feared him, but we tried to interact with them, telling them how to relate with him, how to associate with him, to also help him to cope in the school.
We decided that it's better we send him to school so that he'll go and be associating with children, better than sitting in the house. If he associates himself with children, he'll be more freely with people. So he went, we have seen that there are differences in him. So I think it is helping him.
Morris is very intelligent, he's energetic. Since we started implementing this policy in the school, we have seen that even with the disabilities, they can also perform well in academics.
The argument is that if you include children with special needs in the regular schools, the tendency is for them to slow down the process of teaching and learning. We don't agree. We believe that it should rather provide the opportunity for the children to cross-breed, and that should even enhance teaching and learning. Let me say that UNICEF's support for this inclusive education have been tremendous. Indeed, they have provided financial, technical, and material support.
We will also do our best to make sure that all the resources that UNICEF is putting into this inclusive education thing doesn't go down the drain. And that is why these stories are being told. And that is why these children are happy.
Banga kojiro mangura almo palazo banga kojiro mangura almo palazo.
Shona is one of my daughters, but I must admit that I love her more because of her accident. What I really like about her is how she loves to go to school. She's first to wake up and first to leave home for school. When she comes back, she's always by her books.
We have so much fun when we play. Shena teases me a lot. She says my ears are so big. Though Shena is disabled, she likes learning and does so well in class.
I like coming to school always. The reason is because of Aisha, my friend. Sometimes I feel bad when people distance themselves from me. But then my class teacher always treats me well. And my friend Aisha also comes close to me always. It makes me really happy.
Initially, it was very difficult in implementing inclusive education here. But it's like now, the children have seen the disability children being part of them. So they are okay with them. They play with them. They sit with them. They do all kinds of good things with them.
Inclusive education has come to stay. And for us, we will always support them. We will always stand by them. We will always accept them no matter what their conditions are. We say that there's nobody who cannot be educated. Everyone can learn. And the evidence is there. It's overwhelming everywhere. They are making it.